I was out of high school going to college, and some missionaries, of course, came by my apartment and talked to me, and I thought, I don't want anything to do with this, because my thinking at the time was whenever I got married and whatever my husband was, that is what I figured I would end up being, is whatever my husband was. One day there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, there was a young woman with a baby and a loaf of fresh homemade bread. And she brought it in and gave it to me, and we talked a little bit. And I am kind of a shy person, and I don't deal very well with strangers. And so I didn't quite know how to take her, and found out later that the missionaries had asked her to come over. The missionaries kept talking with, of course, this woman and her husband, and like I said, they became friends with me. And one day she came to me and she said, "You know, my dad is here from Texas, and I really would like him to hear the discussions, but I don't want him to be by himself when he hears them. It might make him feel uncomfortable. So I was wondering if you could sit in with him and listen to the discussions." And I thought, oh, she's a friend. Yeah, sure, I'll go ahead and do that. So I went over there and listened to the discussions with the missionaries for a few nights. And next thing I know, they're asking me, "We feel like you can be baptized, that you're ready." And I went, okay. Like I said, I was not very strong and sure in myself, and so I thought, okay, that's what I need to do, is become baptized, and so I did.
I grew up in Ogden, Utah, so being a Mormon was never really an option. That was all I knew. It was all my family knew. I'm multi-generational as a Mormon. And so that's, that was my whole world as a young man, and even into my early adulthood.
I probably had doubts all along. Even after I met Lance and we got married and had children, there were things all the time that I would always think to myself, really? And I don't know if it's because of the little bit of religious training, Christian training that I had through the Methodist Church, or maybe it was just the Holy Spirit always digging at me saying, So, yeah, I had doubts quite often. Things would change in the church, and I'd sit there and think, whoa, wait a minute, God's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Why is this changing again? And of course, they would always say, well, new revelation, that these are the things that had been lost. And so okay. But there was always that naggy feeling inside of me all the time that something just wasn't right.
Oh, I don't know. As a young man, I truly believed that the church was true, but probably one of the first things that troubled me was Joseph Smith. I saw things and fruits of the church that made sense to me, but I never really knew for sure that Joseph was a prophet, which was kind of crazy, because there were things in the Doctrine and Covenants that I just loved and absolutely believed. They were written by Joseph, and so I believed his words without question, but I still questioned him just a little bit. It was weird.
Oh, finding Jesus. What a glorious day that was. It was, for me, a really hard 2 years prior to finding Jesus, watching Lance struggle so bad. I wanted to step in and help him and didn't know how. I was always asking, what can I do? What needs to be done? How can I help? I wanted to just hold him, help him, let him know that he was loved. And the day that he came to me and said, I don't know if I can be a Mormon anymore, it's like, was this part of whatever had been going on for the last 2 years? I didn't know, so I said to him, give me a few days. And it wasn't really a few days that I needed to decide. It was more wanting to make sure he knew what he was saying and wanting to do. After a few days, I could see that he was quite serious. And so I told him I was good with it. And actually, I was very grateful for it. And so we started reading the Bible together. And, the Holy Spirit was just there. I don't know that I can pinpoint anything in particular, but it felt right. I finally felt like there was peace in my life.
I came to find Jesus, well, because I was kind of compelled to. I had some circumstances that came up where my bishop, my stake president were really being abusive, spiritually abusive, and exercising unrighteous dominion that I knew was wrong. And I tried for the longest time to reconcile it, to try to find peace between what I knew to be right and what they were telling me I had to accept, which I knew was wrong. And so finally, one day, with grace, we turned everything over to God. We laid everything we loved, everything we knew, everything we thought we knew at the foot of the cross. And we asked Jesus, give us your truth. No matter what the cost, no matter how painful, no matter how it would change our lives. God, we need your truth. And this God delivers. He does not leave you in the dark when you turn to him.
Just a minute. Do I have any regrets? Absolutely not. The only regret maybe wasn't leaving Mormonism. The only regret I have is that we didn't find Jesus sooner, that we could raise and teach our children about Jesus, the true Jesus, and not the Jesus of Mormonism, because in Mormonism they just don't teach Jesus every day. They act like they do, but they don't. We were always wondering, where is Jesus? And the closer it got before we did leave Mormonism, that question was raised in our mind more and more. And I wish so bad that we could have raised our children knowing who Jesus really is.
When I first came out of Mormonism, I was kind of proud that I had accepted Jesus and that I recognized that I had been wrong, and even that I think was sinful, and I regret that. But I had been a high priest after the order of Melchizedek. I didn't really know what that meant, but now I know that Melchizedek was a shadow. He was a pointer to Jesus. And the order of Melchizedek, a high priest after the order of Melchizedek, that's reserved for Christ. That defines his power and his position to stand between me and the Father. And when I was a high priest after the order of Melchizedek, I came to recognize that I literally was reaching up to God and taking power that was His, authority that was His, light that was His, glory that was His, and I was putting it on myself. And when that came fully clear to me, my heart broke. My heart just broke. That was blasphemy. That was heresy to the highest level. And I had to fall on my face and beg God for forgiveness, because what I had done was inexcusable and was so wrong. John the Baptist said, in speaking about Jesus, he said, "He must increase and I must decrease." And I realized that my Mormon traditions did just the opposite. It increased me and it decreased Jesus. It made me large and made Him small. It made me powerful and made Him weak. And I don't know if I'll ever get past that. That's going to hurt me for the rest of my life, I'm sure.
I would love it if the Mormon people could just step back for a moment and just listen to what not only their leaders are saying, so that they can start seeing and questioning what those leaders are really saying, but also to step back and listen to those who have been Mormon and have left the Mormon church, because we now see both sides, but they get so defensive, and I just pray every day that God will soften their hearts.
I only want them to know this joy. God is joy. God is love. God is power to redeem us. When we can't redeem ourselves, God reaches into our lives and He pours out His righteousness on us when we are filthy and wretched and enemies to Him. I want every Mormon to know this truth, and I know that some will never turn to Jesus. But if there are any that will turn, that will listen, I want to find them and do everything I can to lead them to Jesus, so that He can save them.
What is different in me? I don't know what's really different in me, except that I feel like I have Christ with me, His Spirit with me all the time now. I think that's probably something that somebody on the outside looking in would be able to say better. What is different in me? I just have this desire to learn more and more every day now, and I look forward to the day when I can be with Jesus. I see a lot of difference in Lance. He's so much more at peace. All the anger that had been building up in him for so many years is gone. We enjoy being with one another. We laugh. We joke. It is such a joy to see what Christ has done in his life. He has such a strong desire to want to know and to tell the world about Jesus. That is his goal, and it is the best goal he could have.
The biggest thing that I have noticed is when my Mormon leadership first began to attack me in unrighteous dominion and demanding things that were simply wrong, I was filled with anger and indignation. I had so much hate in me. And now all I can feel is love for these men. I see them and my heart breaks. I recognize that through them I was led to Jesus, but I also recognize that their actions might be very damaging to them. And I just have love. I just want to reach out to them and share the truth. I don't have room for hate or anger in my heart anymore. Why are you called Grace?
Grace is my middle name. I've never gone by Grace. It's always been a nickname that I was given by my grandparents of Mindy. So I've been Mindy for as long as I can remember. And after we accepted Christ into our life, I asked Lance one time if he felt like I was different. And he said that I was. And I said, well, maybe you ought to start calling me by my name, my real name of Grace. And so I am now Grace, which is twofold meaning for me. The grace of God, and that is my name. And I love it.